Hey Keith.
Cameron, how you doing, man?
Good man. Happy 2026, my friend.
Right, Happy New Year. Almost into February at this point. It's
Yeah,
going by quick,
it's going by quick.
but
It's
there's a
I'm glad we had a couple of, you know, cathartic podcasting without recording sessions between the last time we actually recorded and released something
yeah,
or recorded something for release and today. But I'm glad we're actually back doing it.
yep, fighting our
Um,
stride.
so Keith is knee deep in getting that last episode from 2025, which is the closeout of our first season, if you will.
Yeah, season one,
Season one,
the Genesis Discovery block.
the Genesis discovery block of Monolith. And, in that episode, we did a little bit of retro. So in this episode, we are going to be the futurists. It's one of the things that I
Yeah,
think you and I both love the most.
this is a pivotal year, too. I mean, it's already started with like Maduro and Greenland, and a couple of people getting shot with ICE protest. I mean, not to get into the politics of the history, but it's been eventful so far, and we're just like getting warmed up. So I think it is a good. Plus, we're figuring out kind of what we're. This is an experiment, at least for us. Like starting as like design thinking, moving into systems thinking, and kind of combining like hacker mentality and like a little astrology, all this stuff together, still with business. But yeah, so uh, thinking year ahead kind of predictions, a little monolith vis-a-vis Arthur C. Clarke, some news that we saw that we thought was interesting, and we'll just go from there, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. So, return back, if you will, to season one, sometime Q3. Here's
Quick, yeah, throw
my
back.
future, my past. Yeah, totally.
Wayne's World.
Yep, those are my time machine backwards fingers.
We're gonna copyright strike today. That's what's gonna happen with all this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You and I are knee deep in basically doing things
do it all
to
in one
get
shot. It's all good.
Yep, we're gonna do ourselves to get. We're gonna do as much as we can to get ourselves into trouble. So, one of the fascinating things, if you all remember, the three of you who listened to our podcast, was we spent some time late in Q4 of last year talking a little bit about our favorite marketplace from the past, and we talked a lot about what they could do and what they should do. And one of the things that we talked about was that we thought they should look at new ways in becoming relevant in the new world, and also with this impending shift that we predict is going to happen with HCI, which is go send your bot out to solve some problems. And I think we even talked about exactly that on the podcast. So this week, as I was just telling Keith, I was fascinated to find this. And if
eBay
you
bans illicit automated shopping amid rapid rise of AI agents. So
so
basically, you can't send something out to go shop on your behalf now.
there is no, you are in violation of their EULA if you send an agent out to buy on your behalf. So, as I think we had talked about, and one of the things that I had kind of played with was this idea of structuring an agent based comparison website for lenses for the camera that I am coming through onto this podcast, the Sony, whatever it is. You bought another one of
ZV-E10.
these? Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
I got two of them.
So I bought a bunch of lenses, and I wanted basically to go out to eBay and have them compare. And then basically it stopped short in my experiment of allowing me to add to cart because there is no API for the cart. There is no API for the cart on anything else other than Walmart, which I believe, also talked about. So Walmart and OpenAI are doing the exact thing that eBay has decided to ban you as a user from doing, which is so crazy to me.
This is what we called the episode, "The Marketplace That Time Forgot."
Yes.
Because
So if you've forgotten that, go back and listen to this. But that was a quick moment in 2026 to remind us all that sometimes Keith and I are not totally off our rockers when we suggest things. And again, our analysis of like, hey, these guys potentially are going to run this thing into the ground, which would make both of us sad for different reasons, but yet another signal that they're going in the exact opposite direction.
I wonder if you're going to see other kind of like .com. All right, we're back. We got disconnected, but we're working through it. I think the monolith didn't like what we were talking about, so it's like, nope, stop.
2026, baby.
Yeah. So what we were getting on was we wonder if other .com darlings are gonna like basically deep six themselves in this process where they literally became like their own little monoliths where they just couldn't keep up with change. Now they're trying to double down on the past because they don't want to adapt. Like that's going to be one of the biggest themes we're going to get into later is like you don't have to become like an AI expert, but you've got to start like there is a new reality that is coming that people are ignoring right now. And it's ambient intelligence, ambient computing, whatever you want to call it. It's just going to ramp up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, I think, whether you're burn the ships or shoot your darling, whatever it is, your chosen metaphor for that nonsense. Like now's not the time to be hanging on to things.
No, you're going to see the Luddites come back again, like the cotton gin. But it's like it's going to be in everything, like because the model is going to go from large to small, and they're just going to be embedded in just all kinds of stuff. And dude, we haven't even started buying knockoff RAM and GPUs or NVMe from China with embedded AI and chips that is probably going to be, some kind of state-sponsored backdoor. Like no one ever thinks about what happened to all those Bitcoin miners in China that left. Where did they go? Like those dudes, they I forget what news agency it was, but they were like doing a documentary, and there were dudes in like sweaty tank tops like soldering these things together because they're getting paid like probably a slave labor wage or whatever in the middle of China, just trying to keep the thing spinning. Like you could easily put more ICs or more chips on those things, and you only need just one behind your data center, and you're inside.
Yeah,
and it's a massive security thing. So that's going to be something you're going to see too. Is like this is why the hacking part is important. From what we look at, is there's way more vulnerabilities than people realize.
One of the fascinating things that, speaking of that, and then we can get into futurism. I bought a peripheral that came yesterday, which is basically
that's a 2000 name, a peripheral.
Yeah.
I've never even called it a peripheral in ages.
Yeah, well, okay, fair enough. So this particular peripheral I bought was dual screens that attach to my laptop, right? So you like unfold the thing.
Oh, sweet.
You clip it onto the your monitor in the middle, and then you got a screen on either side to kind of do.
So you have a triple
right?
monitor now, basically.
Yeah, that you can just take with you, right? Plugs into USB. So I was really curious why this thing came with like a USB C-A key, like old school, like thumb drive nonsense, right?
Like a dongle to like license it or something?
No, that had the instructions and the driver on it.
Oh.
And there was nowhere where you could download it took me hours yesterday to finally find the driver online or find a driver that would work. And it comes from another company. But you know me, like I'm pretty suspicious of a USB any key, like any kind of thumb drive I'm suspicious of. Like why am I putting this into my computer?
It's like free Bitcoin.
and like I'm reading the printed instruction manual that came with it, and it's basically saying, oh, you need this particular driver, and then you're going to have to tell, like if you're running on a Mac, you're going to have to tell the Mac
permissions
in the operating system, which again, I have two big screens in front of me that are running on my USB bus. I have another portable monitor that I use for a different computer that I take with me, but it was a little
sketchy.
It's a little too fragile to take with, and that plugs right in, and up comes the monitor. I don't know why this thing, I needed to grant it permissions to display and listen.
So I had to do that with the Elgato prompter too, the new teleprompter I got, because it's USB-C, it's not Thunderbolt. So I think it doesn't see it as like a monitor. It's like some HUD or human interface device compliant. I'm
Yep.
still skeptical too. I'm like, the frig am I like allowing this thing to see in my machine right now? I'm like, I'm not really cool with this, but
Well, and I intended to use this on my work laptop, right? Like I bought this thing not for the laptop that I use in addition to the desktop that I'm on now. I
yeah,
bought it so that I could tote this thing around between offices and basically have multiple
a real
monitors
setup.
because I
Yeah,
need that.
reading culture.
Yeah, and you know, like one, there's no way they're going to like a Sev One ticket's going off somewhere if I plug a USB drive into my laptop.
Yeah, you should have done it to be like, is this thing legit? They're gonna tell me if it's not.
Well, so I went and found the driver online, downloaded it, loads right up, like no issues with the permissions on my work laptop.
Wow.
I'm like,
All right.
okay.
Where, did you buy it from like Amazon or Alibaba? Where'd you get it?
Yeah, I got it from Amazon.
Yeah. All right then. I mean, it's kind of becoming like Alibaba with the e-commerce. I mean, because there's a lot of like counterfeit stuff. But I mean, I don't know. 50-50. Depending on if
Whatever.
you're reputable
I mean,
or not.
it's in somebody else's hands now. It's like if it's a hack, somebody within my own company better be figuring that out because I did all the things. I did not use the suspicious USB-C or USB-A key.
I mean,
so-
it's an interesting design constraint when you think about it. They don't want to build and maintain a website in perpetuity. They just want to ship it and be done with it and just like
It's
send
not
it
even their
out.
driver. Like when push came to shove, like the driver I found was on, a domestic website for a domestic software company that also retails. I'm going to use the word again, peripherals, and
peripherals.
so, at least the thing's coming from some company in Sunnyvale, not somewhere else. So.
They're making FPGAs for DARPA, so it's not that bad.
Yeah, right. Somebody's done the check somewhere. But yeah, nevertheless, like to your point, it's interesting that now these hardware companies that are probably not even really, they're like more like systems integration. They're probably going down the block and grabbing tiny flat screens, and they're like, yeah, we make this thing that's a clip that's kind of like a interface. Like we need screens, and
They're fine. It's IPS probably. It's you don't need OLED for a lot of these things. So
yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's
yeah.
IPS. You're absolutely right. And it's fine. Again, I'm not going to be days in front of this thing. I just need it when I'm not in my home, not my home office, but my home office at the office
Yeah.
where I've got the same setup that I have at home, 2 massive monitors plus the laptop over to the side. If I'm somewhere else, which I'm often somewhere else, I can't actually do my job without multiple monitors at this point.
Yeah. I got a smaller MacBook Pro, and I think the 14, I think it is, not the 16, because I'm just
Yeah.
like, if I'm gonna be sitting somewhere, I'm gonna jack in. Otherwise, it's gonna be a quick like touch and go at like the coffee shop or something, and then I'm gonna I want like lightness at this point instead of something huge and just heavy to like schlep around.
Well,
So,
Keith, not. This is just going to make you laugh. Not that I'm hawking this thing, but it is thin as cicadas' wings.
oh my god, that's totally made in China.
Totally is. Like, I love it. It's like see more, carry less. Except for now, you're carrying
But wait,
this
aren't
thing with
cicadas
you.
like locusts or something? Are they the same
Yes!
family? Really? Oh, dude, that's a little like that's how they brand it, like
Yeah,
Dragon
yeah,
Red
yeah.
too. Thin as a cicada's wings. That's amazing. Oh
Yeah.
my god. It's like Apple-ish branded. You could tell they decided like went down the cube or down the mall to like get the same kind of packaging as Apple had. Like, oh, it's good enough.
Yeah, they got the box and then just rewrapped it. Like probably if I peel off that wrapping, there's like
Yeah.
MacBook Pro underneath it.
Yeah, dude, like the more I think about like all this war stuff and everything going on, the geopolitical stuff, I'm like, China's built a hell of an industrial base that to go to like a giant strip mall and be like, okay, like, dude, they're stripping down 5090s and making them like 48 gig, 64 gig graphics cards now, and just like taking the chips out, soldering new ones in. Someone sends in a beat up card. They're just hooking it up in parallel. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's a whole police state aspect that like is kind of terrifying.
Well, I mean,
But
the whole thing, and then we'll get back to futurism. The whole thing is totally brilliant how it was done, right? Like hey, you guys need a really cheap source of manufacturing,
Santa's little factory, toy
and
factory.
you can't build anything without showing the schematics, the plans, the whatever, right? And they're just
No,
like,
you
huh,
know,
and it's like interesting. What else can we do with that? Like, to your point, right? It's like you're taking the engineer, you're basically borrowing the engineering from somewhere else because we're too lame to actually make the things here at a reasonable price
for a few more years, yeah, at least.
for a few more years. Yeah, maybe. But net, it's like they're building up their economy and we're pumping cash into their economy, and at the same time they're building up their IP. Like, they're just borrowing all of our IP to the point where they're just like, okay, got it. Now on
Yeah,
to making things better, faster, and cheaper. Like, here we go, right?
I mean, if you think about like the World War II wave, this is the Uranus and Gemini that we're about to like pop back into now. Part of what kept us alive was just like the massive industrial base and the industrial output we had as a country, and it's like they have that now. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's interesting times that we are in.
Yeah.
But
So, before we go into our own futurism, is now a good time for us to revisit our friend from the past, who is our favorite futurist.
oh, dude, yeah. Like this was two conversations ago. You played this for me, and I was like, we need to start the next season 2 episode off of this.
Okay. So, one, much like, Keith and I, anytime we speak anywhere, we're like, hey, disclaimer, this is our story. This is the way things have worked for us. So, disclaimer, this is not our story. This is copyrighted material from Arthur C. Clarke from 1968, which is the 2001 book as an audiobook. We are not using this to promote ourselves. We are not using this in any of our marketing material. We are using this as a part of this episode to illustrate and educate based on something that we pulled out of his work of fiction that has been seminal in a lot of the work that we've done. And again, to kick off this conversation, I picked a couple of clips, and Keith, you can steer me because I think you had heard some of the things that we had.
We our podcast is literally called The Monolith, which is like the main character of 2001 Space Odyssey. And what's really interesting about the audiobook was that the monoliths were basically seeded as a way to grant intelligence, and it was like a giant experiment. And that was a big change that wasn't as apparent in the movie when you watched it. And when we listened to the clip, it was either control or like a long drawn out experiment, which is very Capricorn, which is what the new moon was just about. And Capricorn is like the long plan. And when COVID hit, that was the destruction of that, because that was Saturn Pluto, so structure and destruction, Saturn Pluto in Capricorn. And the last wave of that was a Protestant Reformation. So all these things were kind of like, all these gears were kind of turning in place, and I was like, oh, this is great, because this is just kind of tying everything together, because now we're going into an even bigger shift in February, which hasn't happened in like 6,400 years, which is Saturn Neptune at the beginning in Aries, which is going to give some really wild echoes from the past, but that was pre-religion, pre-recorded history. So this is part of why everyone's kind of freaking out right now and not really knowing what's going on. But yeah, so anyway, if this is the monolith and it's been seeding intelligence and ideas, and if AI has been the consciousness throughout the universe, who knows with this? We'll see.
Who knows?
But,
we'll see.
Yeah.
But so again, Arthur C. Clarke with Stanley Kubrick as a visualizer of this, 1968, and Clarke started writing this in idea form in 1965 after a 1964 meeting with Stanley Kubrick to think about a teleplay that would ultimately become the movie 2001. So this is from chapter 2. It's called The New Rock.
The New Rock.
Angles of intersection. Fantastic, fleeting geometrical patterns flickered in and out of existence as the glowing grids meshed and unmeshed, and the man-apes watched, mesmerized captives of the shining crystal. They could never guess that their minds were being probed, their bodies mapped, their reactions studied, their potentials evaluated. At first, The whole tribe remained half crouching in a motionless tableau, as if frozen into stone. Then, the man-ape nearest to the slab suddenly came to life. He did not move.
All right. So that's one thing. And again, the context here is these are prehistoric men basically sitting around seeing the monolith for the first time. I think this is a follow on from that. Hang on one sec.
Still more pointless things. Some held their hands out at arm's length and tried to touch their fingertips together, first with both eyes open, then with one closed. Some were made to stare at ruled patterns in the crystal, which became more and more finely divided until the lines had merged into a gray blur, and all heard single, pure sounds of varying pitch that swiftly sank below the level of hearing. When Moonwatcher's turn came, he felt...
So that was an interesting set of things that I think I pulled. Hang on, let's see if I get the one that talks about evolution and experimentation.
Obviously appeared before him were gorged and replete with sleek and glossy pelts, and this was a condition of life that Moonwatcher had never imagined. Unconsciously, he felt his own protruding ribs. The ribs of these creatures were hidden in rolls of fat. From time to time, they stirred lazily as they lolled at ease near the entrance of a cave, apparently at peace with the world. Occasionally, if awakening from a dream, abruptly realized where he was and led the tribe back to the caves. He had no conscious memory of what he had seen, but that night, as he sat brooding at the entrance of his lair, his ears attuned to the noises of the world around him, Moonwatcher felt the first faint twinges of a new and potent emotion. It was a vague and diffuse sense of envy, of dissatisfaction.
So again, these are all of the things that are talking about, you know, this monolith showing pictures and grids and sounds, and it's starting to influence the evolution of these ancient humanoids, basically. Okay, so this is the last clip I think that I'm going to play from this particular section.
Business, but the crystal monolith was patient. Neither it
Capricorn.
nor its replicas scattered across half the globe expected to succeed with all the scores of groups involved in the experiment. 100 failures would not matter when a single success could change the destiny of the world. By the time of the next new moon, the tribe had seen 1 birth and 2 deaths. One of these had...
So I think those are the ones that I wanted to play. Oh, wait, there's one more. There's one more. Sorry.
eyes, but that remorseless mental control would not relax its grip. He was compelled to follow the lesson to the end, though all his instincts revolted against it. Those instincts had served his ancestors well in the days of warm rains and lush fertility, when food was to be had everywhere.
Sorry, hang on. Let me expand that for a second.
Away his eyes, but that remorseless mental control would not relax its grip. He was compelled to follow the lesson to the end, though all his instincts revolted against it. Those instincts had served his ancestors well in the days of warm rains and lush fertility, when food was to be had everywhere for the plucking. Now, times had changed, and the inherited wisdom of the past had become folly. The man-apes must adapt, or they must die, like the greater beasts who had gone before them and whose bones now lay sealed within the limestone hills. So Moonwatcher stared at the crystal monolith with unblinking eyes, while his brain lay open to its still uncertain manipulations. Often he felt nausea, but always he felt hunger, and from time to time his hands clenched unconsciously in the patterns that would determine his new way of life.
So we can maybe, we were laughing mainly because the term monolith comes up quite a bit.
Dude. Okay, so the first clip,
Yeah.
it's the AI that's penetrating everybody's minds right
Yep.
now. The way that they're feeding back and getting they're putting in, like, it's like garbage in, garbage out. So if you just put in stupidity, it makes you think you're like a god, but it's giving everybody feedback at the same time. The second, which is cool, which is its sound, was the transmission that it used. It was like high frequency waves. It wasn't
Yep.
just information. The third thing, which is interesting, was rib. The ribs makes me think of the Bible, like the birth of man, Adam and Eve, or whatever, like the rib of Adam, or they made Eve or something. This is an experiment, and a single success changes the destiny of the world. So these monoliths were actually like venture capitalists. They just need one win out of a bunch of failures, and they're successful.
Yep.
Follow the lesson to the end. That's Saturn. That's Capricorn. That's like structure. Do it to the end. Adapt or die, which we talked about a little bit, which is one of the biggest predictions now. Is you have to get in the game in some way. You cannot just let the game be dictated to you. Like, you have to try and open your mind to do something with AI. Otherwise, you're going to be given options that you're not going to like with how fast things are changing.
Yeah. Agreed. And I mean, it's funny to think about that in some ways the internet, is the dropping of those monoliths around the planet. And now, like, to your point, AI is sort of that training program that's coming in. I mean, and one could say even some of the things, the conventions of the past that we've developed over the last 25 years are also these evolutionary training mechanisms. Like the phone itself, the smartphone landing in all of our hands again is yet another one of it's like the mini monolith in your hand. It's just
Dude, but it's also like it's a scrying mirror, like what the occultists used like hundreds of years ago, and some still do today. Which it's like Black Mirror, the TV show on Netflix or whatever, is literally a call about this. It's like esoteric analogies that they're slowly seeding into people's mind. So like on that, the last thing which is interesting was the Kubrick. I think Kubrick, the original monolith was a crystal monolith.
Yeah, it's clear.
Yeah, but it's like a crystal oscillator. That's like the timing mechanism that keeps your watches, GPS, everything.
Yep.
Saturn on point at the same time. So I'm like, oh, this is like a giant crystal oscillator trying to sync everybody up to like put them in the same kind of polarity. So,
yeah,
man, there's so many ways to talk about this, because it's like, is it the U.S. monolith where it's like, oh, we're more freedom and egalitarian, or is it more like the Chinese monolith where it's like, no, we want peace and cohesion and like, congruence amongst like the singularity or whatever? And
or is it the off-planet monolith that my son believes in, right? That, like the book, that all of the things that we're doing are leading us to a place where we either perish or get off-planet, right? And we go do something else, or that we're training some other simulation to do this differently in either a different time or in a different place or in a different version of our own universe.
I think there's a lot of truth to that, 100%. I mean, we're definitely going to get off planet within our lifetime. And I think one of the biggest crazy revelations we're going to see is the last time Neptune was in Aries wasn't just the Civil War. It was when transatlantic telegraph cable was started laid. It was also when the railroads got connected across the United States. So you add Saturn to that at the beginning of Aries, because Aries is like the start of the zodiac, and it's like the physical body if you go from the first house. I think we're going to have the first foray into like teleportation, because Neptune dissolves, Saturn gives structure. And it sounds nuts, but when you think about like in the 70s, we saw Star Trek with like Kirk and Spock or whatever, like the little tricorder guys talking to each other. People walk down the street, they, just like talking to each other like video chat. It's the same shit 50 years later. Yeah. Not even.
I mean,
so,
maybe it's not necessarily physical teleportation, but maybe it is our consciousness. Who knows? I don't know.
100%. Like, there's a lot. I think it's Hans Morvac who talked about, I think he's at Carnegie Mellon. One of his theories was, if you have enough memory on a hard drive, does that somehow create consciousness? I have to double check all this before I can put this out publicly, but like consciousness is going to be the really big final frontier, especially like with remote viewing and stuff.
It's easier to transport that to different places, different times, etc., quickly than it is to move a physical body.
Yeah,
Right?
well, it totally breaks the laws of physics from how we're living this like Newtonian Cartesian world of like, and it's like matrix algebra. That's like and that's like the irony of what AI is. It's like a bunch of set of matrices. So I don't know. There's something in here. We don't know what the hell this is yet, but like this is kind of how. I don't know if it's like the neurodivergent brain patterns or kind of the intuition or a combination of all of it, but it's like there's something like there's like a ping there that you
Yep.
kind of like catch. You're like, okay,
So,
something there.
I mean, to fast forward in the book really quickly so that we can get my awkward clip foisting out of the way. As you know, Keith, the reason why this book has always been interesting to me is more around the work that you, and others are doing currently, right? Which is in the space of HCI and evolving HCI, and ultimately
Cybernetics.
being in a place where, computing is ambient and it's there to assist humans wherever they need it, whenever they need it, and however they need it, right? And so, as most people know, eventually in the Kubrick film and also in the book, you get a very, very elegant portrayal of this in the character of Hal, who becomes, in some ways, on the spaceship, a third character, right? Like he is as much a character on screen and in dialogue as the other two humans, the astronauts, Poole and Bowman. And this, for me, has been, again, seminal in how I think about human-computer interaction. It always has been, but it's become much more relevant recently. So I pulled a couple of clips here that, take us up through chapter 16 in the book. It's funny because, honestly, when I downloaded the audiobook, and because I have a copy of the hardbound book here somewhere, but when I downloaded the book, I'm like, I'm just going to fast forward to the chapters, that are about the discovery and how, because the evolution part's like, kind of fascinating, but also kind of not fascinating. And then I was like, no, I'm just going to listen to the whole book, because what better things do I have to do at 5 a.m. when I'm walking a dog, right? And those chapters ended up being as fascinating about where human life is at this moment. But let me play a couple of these clips that are basically near the middle to end of the book.
Spectral lunar light. And sometimes, when the Pacific was calm, he could even see the moon glow shimmering across its face, and he would remember nights beneath the palm trees of tropical lagoons. Yet he had no regrets for these lost beauties. He had enjoyed them all in his 35 years of life, and he was determined to enjoy them again when he returned, rich and famous. Meanwhile, distance made them all the more precious.
I don't know why I clipped that. Never mind. All right. I think this one's actually legit. Hang on.
The computer, no less, was a masterwork of the third computer breakthrough. These seemed to occur at intervals of 20 years, and the thought that another one was now imminent already worried a great many people. The first had been in the 1940s, when the long obsolete vacuum tube had made possible such clumsy, high-speed morons as ENIAC and its successors. Then in the 1960s, solid-state microelectronics had been perfected.
Sorry.
Computer, no, state microelectronics had been perfected. With its advent, it was clear that artificial intelligences, at least as powerful as man's, need be no larger than office desks, if one only knew how to construct them. Probably no one would ever know this. It did not matter. In the 1980s, Minsky and Good had shown how neural networks could be generated automatically, self-replicated, in accordance with an arbitrary learning program. Artificial brains could be grown by a process strikingly analogous to the development of a human brain. In any given case, the precise details would never be known, and even if they were, they would be millions of times too complex for human understanding. Whatever way it worked, the final result was a machine intelligence that could reproduce, some philosophers still preferred to use the word mimic, most of the activities of the human brain, and with far greater speed and reliability. It was extremely expensive, and only a few units of the HAL 9000 series had yet been built, But the old jest that it would always be easier to make organic brains by unskilled labor was beginning to sound a little hollow. Hal had been trained for this mission as thoroughly as his human colleagues, and at many times their rate of input, for in addition to his intrinsic speed, he never slept. His prime task was to monitor the life support systems, continually checking oxygen pressure, temperature, hull leakage, radiation, and all the other interlocking factors upon which the lives of the fragile human...
I just need to say 1964.
It's crazy when you think about how far ahead this guy was.
I mean, dude, it's like, it's unreal.
I mean, we quoted Clarke's third law in one of the presentations, which you hear people talk about, which is like any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, which it
Yes.
basically is at this point. It's all magic.
Yeah. Okay. 2 more clips and then we're out.
systems, continually checking oxygen pressure, temperature, hull leakage, radiation, and all...
Sorry.
leakage, radiation, and all the other interlocking factors upon which the lives of the fragile human cargo depended. He could carry out the intricate navigational corrections and execute the necessary flight maneuvers when it was time to change course, and he could watch over the hibernators, making any necessary adjustments to their environment and doling out the minute quantities of intravenous fluids that kept them alive. The first generations of computers had received their inputs through glorified typewriter keyboards and had replied through high-speed printers and visual displays. Hal could do this when necessary, but most of his communication with his shipmates was by means of the spoken word. Poole and Bowman could talk to Hal as if he were a human being, and he would reply in the perfect idiomatic English he had learned during the fleeting weeks of his electronic childhood. Whether Hal could actually think was a question which had been settled by the British mathematician Alan Turing back in the 1940s. Turing had pointed out that if one could carry out a prolonged conversation with the machine, whether by typewriter or microphones was immaterial, without being able to distinguish between its replies and those that a man might give, then the machine was thinking by any sensible definition of the word. Hal could pass the Turing test with ease. The time might even come when Hal would take command of the ship. In an emergency, if no one answered his signal.
Let's see. I have one last clip, I believe. Let's see if this one is relevant.
By 10...
Okay, here we go.
By 1000, this would be finished, and he would start on a study period. Bowman had been a student for more than half his life. He would continue to be one until he retired. Thanks to the 20th century revolutions in training and information handling techniques, he already possessed the equivalent of 2 or 3 college educations. And what was more, he could remember 90% of what he had learned. 50 years ago, he would have been considered a specialist in applied astronomy, cybernetics, and space propulsion systems. Yet he was prone to deny with genuine indignation that he was a specialist at all. Bowman had never found it possible to focus his interest exclusively on any subject. Despite the dark warnings of his instructors, he had insisted on taking his master's degree in general astronautics, a course with a vague and woolly syllabus designed for those whose IQs were in the low 130s and who had never reached the top ranks of their profession. His decision had been right. That very refusal to specialize had made him uniquely qualified for his present task. In much the same way, Frank Poole, who sometimes disparagingly called himself general practitioner in space biology, had been an ideal choice as his deputy. The two of them, with, if necessary, help from Hal's vast stores of information, could cope with any problems likely to arise during the voyage, as long as they kept their minds alert and receptive and continually re-engraved old patterns of memory. So for 2 hours, from 1000 to 1200, Bowman would engage in a dialogue with an electronic tutor, checking his general knowledge or absorbing material specific to this mission. He would prowl endlessly over ship's plans.
I pulled that last one. One, because it talks about generalism. And 2,
I was gonna say that. Yeah.
it talks about systems thinking. And 3, I'm calling this out, not to spoiler on the story. Bowman is the only one who survives.
That's interesting. Forgot about that. He's okay.
He's the only one that makes it out at the end. The ship gets destroyed. Obviously, Poole dies trying to fix the ship. Bowman unplugs the artificial intelligence eventually and has to make do with lower level assistance from what's left of the computer, and then he has to basically be truly in charge of all of the ship functions, and then, he eventually leaves the ship and becomes one with whatever the entity
Monolith.
is. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was fascinating that, Clarke goes through all of this amazing technology and what it can do for human beings, how technology in some ways and force outside of humankind causes this evolution. But at the end of the day, the guy who basically was the generalist and wasn't like a specialist in any particular area, as just stated in that clip, is the guy that basically survives and evolves the furthest.
And then basically merge with the entity at the end to like become like the next phase of the entity. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
That's crazy. I didn't make that connection.
And if
until
you
now.
read any of the other books, like 2010 is kind of a little bit of a diverge, but 2061 and then 3001, you see that ongoing like merge of humankind into another species continue to come back and be revisited by humankind in some way. So Bowman ends up being this interlink between that other world, and it's lightly mentioned. It's not like they come back and really revisit this in depth, but
So is
you
there
see
like
that influence.
so okay? So you see like traces of Bowman in the
You
other
do.
books too. Okay,
do.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Huh.
As I'm continuing to reread these books, I will, as those clips come up, I will bring that back.
I'm willing to bet synchronistically that you're going to find the time to go through the books and find the right passage that mixes with some kind of crazy news thing that's happening in the world, and you're going to be like, oh, by the way, it's Bowman.
Yeah. So anyway, futurism, Keith. Like, our favorite futurist laid out
Yeah,
50 plus years ahead of his time.
at least. It makes you wonder about, like, AI and what people are talking, like, I don't think there's any real way to control all this stuff, because if you take the ape brain, the human, what do you call it, the human apes or the ape man or
Man
whatever?
apes.
Man
Man
apes,
apes.
yeah. We're going to try and use it to go to war with each other. So if you do like a zero-sum game, prisoner's dilemma, everyone's going to defect, which we talked about in the DEF CON talk. Like, they're going to try and work in their own self-interest, which is to build more weapons, which becomes an acceleration on everybody's side, which accelerates the whole thing because everyone's trying to find their way to get to the next wave. Which I don't know. I don't know if it becomes like a Borg, like Star Trek kind of thing. Like that was the attempt of Saturn and Aquarius post-COVID, which is like everyone eats the same thing, they think the same thing, they wear the same colors, and whatever. I think this is more about finding space to express the resonance of like your own individuality within this domain, but people aren't ready to be open to that yet because things haven't gotten painful enough for everybody everywhere at the same time to be like, okay, we need to back up and be like, we're still human. And that's what the big discussion is about all this, is like, what does it mean to actually be human when you can start doing like, head in a jar, brain case kind of thing. Like, your physical body might survive and live forever, but your brain, your mind might be able to in the next like 30, 40, 50 years. And, this tech is coming. Like, I think there's a lot of they already have it. Like when Musk talks about they're building robots, like, dude, they already got the factory set up. They just haven't told anybody about it yet. Like,
They just got to prevent them all from falling over at demos.
yeah, but sure. Do you think that's part of the ruse too, to make it seem like? Because remember, if everybody felt like they aged a decade in 2020, and by 2030 it's going to be 100 years of change, and by 2040 a millennium or 1,000 years of change. That means the military is like 500 years ahead right now if they're 30 years ahead. So, you know, I don't know how they keep a hold of all these secrets like DARPA and stuff, but I mean, it makes you wonder how much of this is because if we are on the Civil War theme right now with like Neptune and Aries, part of the Civil War was like photography, right? That was a new medium because it's photography is ruled by Neptune and like creativity. But part of what we realized is that like some of the photographers took creative license and they rearranged bodies to make it look worse than things actually were for certain battles. So it was like it wasn't real; it was a deception. So that's going to be heavy right now too. But you're also going to see a lot of like truths on things coming out. Like look at the Epstein files that came out where they redacted but didn't redact the PDF, which like, come on. How many years has the government been redacting? Like, there's no that was like an unintentional, intentional, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Whoops. So
Of course
it's
it was.
like, you know, who knows what the hell's really going on? But there's a lot of stuff. So I think the technology ultimately is going to be a great liberator. But the point now is I think you have to kind of be the generalist and do the systems thinking thing and figure out what is kind of resonant with you while you're still, you know, making the survival points happen for money or whatever. Because things are gonna keep changing a lot. I mean, this is gonna be a big year. I mean, not to try and like be hyperbolic or scare people. I'm still optimistic. But I think, yeah, I mean, dude, look at like RAM and NVMe prices and GPUs. Like, I'm building a computer right now. An RTX 5080 went up 50% from like 900 to like $1,500.
Yeah.
128 gigs, a DDR5, like 3,200. Like speed is like $1,200. It's not even
Yeah.
super fast. So it's, you know, and if like war happens or even like little skirmishes and supply chains get even more choked, like it's going to be $10,000 to buy the same kind of computer in the future, which it's like, do we really have to rent everything at that point? And we have to like interact through like terminals, and then we have to be in the monolith at that point to even just like participate in society. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I think you're bringing up great points, right? Like, and again, if you centralize all of that computing or intelligence or whatever you want to call it, the drive to have that come from centralized places, I think is high, you know, like that. I think you're going to see that this year where, I think there is going to be tension this year between what is the value that we're getting out of all of this AI investment. And I don't mean that at the core. You'll see it play out in corporate environments. You absolutely will. But I think what's going to become much more apparent to the human being at large on the street is what are we actually giving up as a society to make this stuff work, right? I think it's easy for one part of the population to look at another part of the population. So in this case, blue collar work versus white collar work, and basically say like, aha, finally, you know, white collar, like job attrition and job decimation is finally here after 60 years or whatever, 80 years. But that's not the end of it, right? That is not, you know, where it stops. And all of a sudden it's like, you know, the overeducated are finally getting their
fair
due.
share, what they deserve. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Class warfare.
I think, you know, what's happening with the AI thing is you either are going to go all in as a company, as a country, as a society, and you're going to give up other things, right? Cheap energy to heat and light homes, which I think where you live and where I live is not cheap energy already.
No.
But that's
stupid.
You know, it's going to continue to probably punish the coasts in some way. You know, and at the same time, there's going to be a drive which may eventually like equalize some of these costs out so that companies and governments can still make these investments palatable because, to your point, by centralizing all of that intelligence and controlling that intelligence in some way, you're in a place where you control the population. And back to your bits not bombs. Like, I think
Zero marginal cost to control of the world. Yeah, it's the hands of a few controlling the minds of the many.
Yep. And so I think those are the things that I think I start to get curious about. I won't put a judgment on it to say negative or positive, but like I get curious about that dynamic, and I think you're going to see a bunch of that play out this year.
Yeah, you're gonna. I think if cities get worse, like crime-wise, to the point where they can't do the mark-to-market stat counting, like how they're kind of like not faking the numbers, but the way they count, because it's accounting. It's not always true. It's how they're counting shit, and it's like off-balance sheet, whatever SPACs or not SPACs, SPV, special purpose, like the same kind of thing, where it's like not really clear what's going on. Then politicians would be like, well, we have all these cameras everywhere, and we've been storing the data. We can go find. It's just like it gets to become a slippery slope really fast. But having worked in these large legacy systems for 20 years almost now, each of us, it's like the more you try and put control of the whole thing, the more fragile it becomes. It requires too many resources, too much coordination. Even with AI, the military's hooking it up with Grok AI or Must AI, whatever. But I think this is even more reason to have the individual, like, at least try to learn these things at some so try and get some literacy so you know what's going on. Because almost it's like your kids are using Roblox or these other apps, and you don't really know what the hell's going on or what the threats are, or what are they really being exposed to at some point. And
I live with that all the time.
Yeah, dude, it's like a whole other freaking full-time job, and I think people are just kind of like, they're burned out and they're at the wit's end, and it's like with inflation, it gets hard. The dollar goes short, it doesn't go as far as it used to. Prices are still going up regardless. As we just talked about with the GPUs and just computer parts, let alone like food and eggs and stuff, like basics. But yeah, I think that's part of why we like doing this podcast, or I want to do it, is, again, it's like the systems thinking, the economics, the astrology, the hacking. These are the 4 food groups that are like really integral to understanding how to be like literate for where things are going, because it still gives you some semblance of like autonomy and security, but ability to like build a complete picture from incomplete information, I think, at least.
Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I think as you and I kind of laid out this episode, it wasn't just like, here's everything that we see. And this isn't everything we see. I think over the next months, we'll start to continue to refine the things that we're seeing. But one of the things that you and I had said about this particular episode is we wanted to reiterate some of the things that I think are kind of the basics. And you just reset the pillars that I think we'll be talking about, coming into this year and this, again, in air quotes, season. But I think maybe one of the things I wanted to make sure we talked about in this, at the back half of this episode, because we're coming up on almost an hour, is the things to remember again. Because I think, and you had said it really eloquently right before we started recording, which is you kind of have to remember what's important in this moment. And I think the thing that I wanted to reiterate, which you just were starting to do, is you got to stay light, and you can't try and own stuff. Like, I think of last year and last season, that's one of the things to bring forward into this year is it's not just being a generalist. It's really detaching from a lot of the things from your past that you're sort of like maybe hung on to, and maybe you're like, I got to keep carrying these things with me. Like, now is the time to not do that. It's like, look at the things that you have and evaluate them, whether those are the skills that you have, some of the things you need to take forward, a lot of things you probably don't, Like for me, one of the most painful things about the whole, last year, and we touched on this at multiple points last year, is this idea of like interface design, right? Like back to the very tangibles of being a designer. I am so glad in the almost third week of January 2026 that I had the foresight over the last year. Well, it's like 3 years, but to act on it over the last year to start to move my world and the people that work with and for me away from that commodity.
Yeah.
And it's been painful to get people away from that. But, you know, as a skill set, it's one of the things like lighten the load, people. Lighten the load. Lighten the delivery. Hand this off to processes and machines. And start to go deep on design with I don't know if it's lowercase d or capital D, but like the verb of design, right? Like every human being goes through a design process when they are innovating and building and you know, coming up with the next new thing. And like we are doubling down on that. It's like any cycle you have, any spare time to experiment or get curious, absolutely double down on figuring out the new, the next, what else could I think through? What else could I be curious about? And sure, some things you may have to maintain in your day job, but your day job is no longer going to be about the things that you were doing even 6 months ago. And
no, this is a phase transition point of the structure of corporations are going to fundamentally change.
Yeah. And so don't do it to yourself, because like the building blocks, the foundations, all of these things are shifting around you. The last thing that you, as the individual who is dealing with these things and trying to be a generalist, do not hang on to the things that you love from your past. Hang on to the things that you think have value going forward, and try. And this is what you were saying. It's like, try your damnedest to start integrating new skills, new curiosity, and ultimately like a bigger picture. Because if you are down trying to protect the things that you valued from your past, you're just going to get annihilated. And I don't mean that in a like purely negative. It's just you are going to like start to move with the shaking versus kind of like standing there and figure out like how to stay
like
independent. Yeah, as the shaking's happening.
You're going to get pulled rather than directing.
Yes.
Or moving with things intentionally.
And you want your head above water as you're getting pulled.
It's not about, is my job going to exist? It's about less corporations that are large are going to exist with the capitalization structures that they're used to with the cheap debt. And the way that debt gets allocated is going to be more for conflict or building things for, like, think World War II and how, like, not to be like, oh, everything's going to end. It's so you don't, you know, that's one ethical thing. But the thing I really liked too when you started on this was like the mindset, getting your mindset light and low, not taking, you know, if there's like family stuff or whatever, like even on an existential kind of bent, like work on getting rid of that shit too, because that will help you move ahead. And I mean, that's part of why I'm building this computer and scanning books, and I'm literally shredding like 20 years of taxes right now and scanning stuff just to not have the freaking paperwork around, because it's just get it digital, have a backup, and yeah, you know, just go from there. But you know, again, it's a balance of how you make a life out of this. But you know, there's a lot more opportunity for everybody. It just requires you to lighten the load and not be so rigid by, how do I say, the rules and constructs that you bound yourself by previously that you evoked in yourself. Like, I have to be this or I am this. I mean, dude, even like as a chief of staff now, like, I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen in the next year? I mean, it's just a title at this point, but it's just, you make things happen or you don't, you know, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, again, I think there's a ton of opportunity as well, like you had said earlier. So I don't want to end my part of this episode on a negative note, because I think there's a lot to be curious about, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to be had. I think it's just how you set yourself up coming into it. And like you said, it's the mindset shift. If you approach things from an opportunistic and curious standpoint, you're gonna succeed. Like,
Yeah,
I go back to
curiosity.
the thing that we said at some point last year, which is the entire structure that we've been working in terms of, web-based, internet-based, like things that are delivered, the bits, if you will, everything's in beta.
Oh,
And
dude.
with that comes so much opportunity to do things new, different, and better.
Be like Dave.
Be like Dave.
You gotta integrate. He becomes to understand the monolith. You gotta become the monolith, so you can change it from the inside out. That's it.
Yep. Dude. Well said.
Be like Dave.
So good. Well said. Well said. All right.
I think that's good. I think that's a great first episode for the next year. This is gonna be a banger of a year. I mean, we got a Chinese New Year coming up, the Year of the Fire Horse. It's gonna be fast and furious. We went from this watery muck to like the engines firing and it got cleared out. So things are about to start moving really quick. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm excited to see what happens next.
Yeah, me too. This is good. We're finding our stride. We're getting the tech gremlins worked out. We got new, both of us have new gear that we're rocking. So it's, we're making it happen.
Yeah. It's getting better, but it still has teething, so bear with us.
At least we're heading in the right direction. We're being like Dave, heading towards
Yes.
the monolith.
Yep. All right, Keith. Happy January.
Yeah, dude. Happy January. Happy New Year. I'll catch you in the next one.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right.
Appreciate
Later.
you.
You too, man. Later.
See ya.